This is the Portal Prison, and it is the trippiest prison ever built. And it has some of the coolest mind-breaking puzzles I've ever seen in all of Minecraft. And if you want to see them all, stay till the very end of the video and enjoy. I spawned inside of a room made completely out of bedrock. I looked all around it. The room was absolutely massive and had some weird structures in the middle. I looked around me and there was a weird looking portal on the other side of something. I also saw a tall, narrow room, but then that's when I went over to the back wall and saw a mirror. This was definitely not normal since mirrors don't actually exist in vanilla Minecraft. There was a weirdly shaped hole in the bedrock wall that looked like it could be a door, but I wasn't really sure. I tried to make my way to the weird looking portal on the other side, but it turns out there were barriers blocking me from getting into it. Now, I was pretty sure that this is where I had to get, but I wasn't sure. I tried punching the barriers and bedrock around me, but there were no holes visible, so I would have to come back here later. I decided I was going to go through one of the weird looking structures, but then that's when something really weird happened. You see, it looked like there was a completely different room inside the other structure, and when I looked on the other side, it appeared that the same thing was happening there as well. This was so weird. I looked behind it, and there was nothing, but then when I looked inside of it, there was a giant room. How was this even possible? It was like it was some sort of portal to another area of the prison. I also saw a sign that said, "You get one free death, use it well." I did decide to take the sign because it might be able to help me later, but I didn't know what it meant by "you get one death." Anyways, I walked inside the room and the exit somehow closed behind me and I wasn't able to get back into the room I was originally in, but then I saw a bottle and an item frame on the wall. I decided to take these items because they definitely seemed like something I would need later. Then I searched the rest of the room to make sure I wasn't missing any important items and then moved on to the next part of the room. The next room I walked into was a little weird. I was able to see into the main room, but it was really tall with a hole at the top of the ceiling, but then that's when I saw a sign that said "place water here." But that was a problem. You see, while I do have a glass bottle, I can't actually use that to place water. And I don't have any bucket with me, and there's no visible water source that I've found so far, so we really need to hope that we find these items along the way if we want to see what's up there. After making sure that there were no more items left in the room, I decided I was going to go explore the next area of the prison, which was an entrance to my right, but then I realized something. You see, I had been about to walk into the next room, but I had remembered that the mirror behind me looked a lot like glass, and, well, glass can be broken easily. So I returned back to the mirror that had been behind me the whole time, and when I broke it, it actually revealed that there was a secret area behind it. I was sure to break every piece of glass to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Then I explored the area. It was a little weird. It was very small and there didn't appear to be any sort of items inside of it, but then I saw another mirror. And, well, logically, since the last time I broke a mirror, it had something behind it, and sure enough, when I broke this one, it had something behind it as well, which didn't make any sense because the other side was completely different, but this is the Portal Prison after all. After confirming that this did defy all physics of reality in Minecraft as I knew it, I made my way down the hallway that I just found. The first thing that I saw while walking down the hallway was a tall ledge that I wasn't able to reach, and I didn't have any items whatsoever in my inventory that I could use to tower up there, so I would have to come back to it later. Then I made my way down the rest of the hallway. This next room was very weird though. It had some sort of weird structure in the middle with a giant hole in the ceiling above it, and when I looked through one of the sides, well, it didn't exactly add up. See, I walked under one of the archways and appeared on the other side, but then it appeared there was a bigger room inside of the archway somehow. The room under all of the archways looked weird. It was very tall and there weren't any items like whatsoever inside of it, so I decided to walk out. Then I went into the other side of the archway. This time, the room was actually much different. But then when I looked behind me, I was able to see myself for what looked like forever and ever, but then that's when I saw it. On the ground inside of an item frame was an iron ingot. I decided to take this because this would actually help me craft a water bucket and hopefully get water so I could get up to the area in the hole in the ceiling from earlier. After moving around for a little bit longer, I figured out how to get out of this area. Then I decided that I was going to go back to the main room and explore the one area that I hadn't yet, but I still had some questions, like why was there a giant hole in the ceiling in the room that I just came from? But nevertheless, I made my way to the second portal to see what was inside this room. This next room was just like all the other ones, very weird. I was able to see down for what looked like forever and even able to see myself. It looked like it was a giant parkour course, and you're probably wondering what would be so bad if I fell. But if I were to fall, It actually looked like I would be falling forever and then just take fall damage once I hit the first block below me, so I would have to do this parkour without failing once. The first few jumps of the parkour were pretty simple, but then that's when it happened. I had fallen once, and if I had fallen even one more story down, then I for sure would have died. This was a good reminder to take it slower than I was, so that way I wouldn't lose this challenge. I then made the rest of the jumps. Once again, the parkour wasn't that difficult, but it was very stressful knowing that if I fell just once, or if I even made just one small mistake, I could end my whole run right here. Every now and then I would look over the edge to see if I could see any floor, but I didn't. But a lot of you are probably wondering something. How do I know that if I fall, I would fall forever? Well, the fact that I'm able to see myself proves that there is a portal down there, and since the ceiling is pitch black, it most likely also has a portal connected to the one on the floor as well, so if I were to fall, I would be trapped in an eternal loop, and then when I hit the ground, I would just take the fall damage. After making my way to the very end of the parkour, I noticed that there was an item frame containing another iron ingot on the wall. This did confirm my theory that I was going to need to craft a water bucket to get up to the hole in the ceiling. Now that I had 2 iron ingots, I only needed 1 more before we could finally see what was at the top of the room. I made my way back down from the ledge and decided to parkour my way back to get back to the main room. But I didn't notice something. See, I hadn't actually checked here earlier, but in the very back right corner of the giant room where I spawned in, there was a small hole. I was assuming that there was something in here, but as far as I could see, there wasn't actually anything in there, and I was too big to fit inside, so I was wondering, how would I get inside there, and what would I find inside of it? I decided to make my way back down the hallway to see if there were any useful clues or hints that I had missed, and sure enough, there was actually a hallway branching out to the left that I actually hadn't seen before. I walked down this hallway, and it led to a weird looking room with a sign that said shrink room and 2 portal looking structures. I decided to look inside both of the portal looking structures. It looked weird in both of the structures, and I couldn't really explain why, but I did decide to take the end rods that were in the middle. They were most likely just for decoration, but it's good to have any item you can in the prison. But anyways, I decided to walk through the one portal looking structure that I was able to, except when I came out, I was actually tiny, and then I realized this was how I would get inside that small hole. You see, earlier I wasn't actually able to get inside the 1 block hole because I was 2 blocks tall, but now that I was 1 block tall, I was able to basically get inside of any small space I could think of. Now, all I had to do was make my way back to the main room and get inside the small hole. Also, while I'm on my way back to the main room, I wanted to let you know something. I'll admit to you, this person is most likely not impossible, and I'm sure I've made a lot of mistakes, so I want you to debunk it. Basically, what that means is you make your very own YouTube video exposing the mistakes that I did, and it will all be featured in one live stream coming up. That's right, your YouTube video will be featured in my live stream, so if you think I made some mistakes, just call me out in a video of yours, and enjoy the rest of the video. I made my way all the way back to the main room, and then went inside the 1x1 block hole. This was very weird because I wasn't seeing any items until I turned the corner and there were actually stairs. Luckily though, I was still so small, I was actually able to fit in them. This was even less than 0.5 blocks wide. The really small hallway led to an actually decently sized room. It was actually kind of weird though. It had 4 cauldrons that I wasn't really able to fit under, and a crafting table that was really difficult to reach. I then used my empty bottle and clicked one of the cauldrons, but it actually turned out there was water in them. And sure enough, it actually turned out there was water inside of all of the cauldrons except the one on the right. This was very useful because this might be where I'm able to get my water from so I can reach the hole in the ceiling. I decided though, since I didn't have a bucket yet, I was going to come back to this room later and explore the rest of the prison before getting my water bucket and making my way up to the hole in the ceiling. I made my way all the way back to the shrink room. I wasn't sure if it would work in reverse, but I was really hoping so because I needed to get back to my normal size. And sure enough, after going in the portal reverse way, I was actually able to get back to my normal size. But then I had remembered something. There was actually an area of this prison I hadn't explored yet. Now, you're probably wondering what. Well, there was actually a ledge that I had seen at the very beginning of seeing the hallway, but I wasn't able to reach it. That was until I thought to myself, why was there a hole in that one room in the very top of the ceiling? I mean, there's surely a reason why it was up there. So I decided to go back to the weird looking room with the hole in the ceiling and see what was up with it. There was actually something in this room I hadn't realized yet. I was able to get on top of the archway, which may not seem relevant, but when I looked down, there was actually a hole. And when I fell through it, well, it turned out it was actually a portal, but something felt weird. And when I looked in F5, well, I was actually bigger. And this confirmed my theory. The hole was for something, but then I just realized something. See, when I was smaller, I was only able to make a 1-block jump, but now that I'm big, I'm actually able to make up to almost a 5-block jump, letting me get over this giant ledge and hopefully seeing what's on the other side. I made my way back down the long hallway. This time I was much faster just because of the sheer size that I was. Then I decided I was going to see if I was tall enough to jump over it, and sure enough, I made my way over the ledge with breeze. Now that I was over the ledge, I was able to see what was on the other side. I didn't see any items, but then the next room I went into was absolutely massive. This room was even bigger than the room that I had spawned inside of, and it looked like there was a giant parkour course around me. But the weird thing was, the jumps didn't actually seem possible until I realized, because of how tall I am, I'm actually able to make really far and really tall jumps I wouldn't usually be able to make if I was only 2 blocks tall, so I decided to do the parkour and see what was at the very top of it. The parkour itself wasn't actually that hard, but it was kind of hard to control myself just because of how big I was. But it was nice because every time I fell, I would barely even take half a heart of damage just because of how big I was. After a little bit more parkour, I got to a part where there was a narrow beam. This part was actually very surprisingly hard just because of how thin the beam was compared to my size. But still, I didn't fall at this part and I made my way quickly up the stairs until I made it all the way to the very top. This next area was weird though. It had a chest with an iron ingot and I was about to make my way back down, but then that's when I realized something. I didn't have any way to get smaller. You see, earlier when I had gotten small, I had just gone through the portals in reverse, but I was now too big to fit back into the portal. So, how was I going to get smaller? But then, that's when I remembered something. At the very beginning of this prison, there had been a sign that said, "You get 1 free death, use it wisely." I did not want to use it here, but it really looked like it was the only way I could get back to my normal size and continue the rest of the prison and craft my water bucket. So, that's exactly what I did. I had died of fall damage, but luckily when I respawned, I was still inside of the prison. I had not lost the challenge, but I had used my 1 death. Hopefully I wouldn't need it later. I made my way back to the shrink machine so I could get back inside of the small hole. Then I used my empty bottle to fill the 1 cauldron with water, then used my bucket to collect the water, then made my way back to the room with the hole in the ceiling. After going back through the shrink machine, I made my way back to the room with the hole in the ceiling and placed the water exactly where the sign said to. After that, I used my water bucket and used the water to propel me up the wall and get into the room above the really tall one. After I was in the room at the very top of the tall one, I looked around. The only thing that I could see in the room was a bedrock block, a button, and a sign. The sign said when you push the button, it will open the portal. So that's exactly what I did. After I pushed the button, I waited around to see if something would happen, but nothing actually did happen. Except that's when I realized something. When I had been at the very beginning of this prison, I had tried to get through that hole in the bedrock archway, but wasn't able to. Did this button open that so I would be able to get to the portal behind the barriers? I decided to go back down and see if it did. I made my way back down to the main room and was actually able to walk right through where the barriers were. This was it. I had beaten the regular area and was now able to go through the main portal. Let's see what's on the other side of it. I jumped through the portal and looked around me. I was now in a different looking area. There were no items whatsoever. There were just a lot of archways that looked like they could be portals to other rooms. I walked through one of the archways, but it led me to an almost identical room, and then I saw myself in another room, and then I realized this was a portal maze, and I might be trapped in an infinite loop if I can't find the exit. I walked around for what seemed like ages. I was seeing no difference in rooms whatsoever, and no helpful items or blocks. I really needed to get out of here if I wanted to beat the challenge, but it was starting to seem impossible. Everywhere I went, I kept seeing myself over and over and over, and I really almost gave up until I saw something different. Unlike the other rooms, this one actually had blocks in it. I was able to notice two things. One was a glass box, and the other one was a dark tunnel I couldn't see into. I was afraid to walk into it because if I did, I might have the chance of being stuck inside of it forever and having no way out. The next area was very trippy. It was a set of mirrors that surrounded me on almost all sides, and I could see myself for what seemed like forever. It didn't seem like there was anything inside of the mirrors, so I decided to leave. But then I noticed something. A 1 block wide hole that was very tall on the very right side of the room. I decided to walk into it, and when I did, well, I saw probably the trippiest thing yet. At the end of the narrow passageway, there was a box-like structure, and when I looked down, well, it made no sense whatsoever. I looked up and saw a room, but it was facing sideways, and then when I looked left and right, I was able to see myself for what seemed like forever. When I walked forward, gravity morphed and I was somehow standing now. This box made no sense, but then I decided to take a leap of faith and see what was in the room below. This was a risk because if the gravity didn't shift, I would plummet my way down to the wall and take fall damage, but luckily when I did, I fell down and landed on the floor, barely losing any hearts of damage. There was a chest in the center of the room that I decided to open, and when I opened it, I found an item called a portal gun. Then I looked over to a wall and actually saw daylight. This was it. I could finally make my escape. I took the portal gun, aimed it outside, and shot it once. This created an empty portal outside. Now all I had to do was aim it at the floor. Then after that, I went through my very own custom portal that I just created, and I was now outside the portal prison. I then started to walk away. Where am I? No. Is this the command block prison? Thank you everybody so much for watching the video. If you think I made some mistakes, be sure to debunk it in your own video. It'll be featured in the live stream. Also be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get to 4,000 watch hours by 2026. You guys have a great day and goodbye.